Hello and welcome to Your Vote Counts. I am Diana Bodker from the League of Women Voters, bringing you this public, nonpartisan service program. These 2020 general election interviews are made possible through Capital Community Media via remote technology and in collaboration with the Leagues of Women Voters of Oregon and Marion and Polk counties. For this race, all candidates were invited. Candidates did not receive the questions developed by the League of Women Voters, AAUW, and neighborhood associations ahead of time. The candidates were asked to prepare a 3-minute statement telling about themselves, their qualifications, and their vision for the office if elected. I would now like to ask candidate Jack L.S., who is running for office of House District 21, to share his opening remarks.
Thank you, Diane. I'm Jack Esp, as introduced. I live in Northeast Salem. I've lived here for about 5 years. I am married. I have 2 children, one living in Oregon, one living in Washington. My qualifications for this job are important. I spent over 40 years in healthcare management, being either the chief financial officer or administrator of hospitals up and down the West Coast. Now, in doing that, I dealt with both state and federal government's regulatory process extensively. Since retirement, I've been very active in the Republican Central Committees and Party. I have served in office in the Umatilla County Republican Central Committee, went to the state convention, served on the Bylaws Committee. In Umatilla, I was one of the main drivers in creating the greater area Hermiston Tea Party. I was an officer there until I moved over here to Salem about 5 years ago. Since that time, I've been active with the Marion County Republican Central Committee, but more important than that, I have been extremely active with the Oregon Citizens Lobby. For those of you who are not aware of that organization, it's an organization of volunteers throughout the state. And during the legislative session, those of us living close enough to the Capitol meet weekly while the legislature is in session. We review the bills that are in front of the legislator. We actually rank them, score them, multiple people review them, and we come out with a grading system based on 5 principles. Then we take those bills and talk to the various legislatures regarding the bills, regarding how they fit in with our principles, mostly conservative principles. In addition to that, we go before the various legislative committees and testify on these bills. We invite people in to meet with us and talk to us. The legislators quite often come to our meetings, talk to us, explain their bills, explain pros and cons of some of the other major bills going on. Through this practice, I have got to develop a significant, in-depth ability to analyze bills. 1 year, I think it was 2 years ago, I was the chairman of the Healthcare Committee, and I myself analyzed 185 healthcare bills. Now, most of these bills are changes to existing law rather than whole new bills. Those that are changing, you have to know how to read them, what's being added, what's being deducted, and you can, the only part that's going before the legislature at that point is the changes, not the original bill. By that I infer that you could have a bill that you are totally opposed to, the original bill. But within that, in current legislation, they may be making some changes. And these changes are good, in your opinion. They improve the bill. Even though you didn't like the bill, these changes improve it. Therefore, you would look at this in a positive manner. The reverse also happens. The third point is my reasons for running. My reasons are very simple: to get our state back on track. It's in a monopoly situation at the current time, supermajority by the Democrats in both the House and the Senate, and a Democrat governor. That leaves the conservative voice nil in Oregon. We need to balance the legislature My personal opinion is that neither party should have all three facets, the House, the Senate, and the governor's chair at the same time. It should always be a 2-to-1 split.
Well, thank you. And now let's go to the questions. What can be put into place to create an infrastructure more resilient to fires, floods, seismic, health, and political disasters?
That's a broad question. If you stay with fires, the forestry department needs to address such things as undergrowth, insects, things that create the fire. In order for a fire, you have to have three things present: fuel, heat, and oxygen. You take any one of those three away and there's no fire. So if we control the undergrowth, the dead forests, fire is going to pretty well disappear. You can look at Sisters. Years ago, they had fires over there routinely. They cut out the underbrush and the fires just about disappeared. Floods, the dam situation was the first and the major thing controlling floods. Under the federal government, it's controlled, not the state, through the Department of Engineers. With this push going on to remove the dams, what's that going to do to flooding? I think it's something we need to look at very closely. You mentioned political. I mentioned that a little earlier, the fact that neither party should have total control to the point that we're experiencing currently.
Thank you. What plans are in place to address homelessness due to COVID, evictions, and homes lost to fires?
Well, homelessness itself, the big thing in my mind on that falls on the state of Oregon. Over the last 10 years or more, Oregon has routinely closed down the majority of its mental health facilities to people that get into these situations and get their mental status, because mental is a lot of the problem there. I would say number one and foremost is we need to get some more mental health programs for these type people. Would you repeat the other two parts of the question?
Yes, of course. Yes, so it was COVID, evictions, and homes lost to fire.
Well, homeless lost to fires goes back to the fuel. The fires, if we stop the forest fires, there's going to be a decrease in the homes. COVID is another story. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I spent over 40 years in healthcare. Within a reasonable time after COVID hit the country and hit the world, it was easy to see that the majority of deaths specifically affected the elderly with comorbidity. This meant the nursing homes, the senior living centers, assisted living centers. If we would have locked those down immediately and forgot the rest of this action, we probably would have saved, I'm just throwing a figure out, but 50% of the lives we've lost.
All right, thank you very much. Address what is needed to school building design or redesign to ensure distancing requirements, airflow, providing instruction for both K through 12 and higher education.
I don't think the distancing programs are necessary in schools, personally. The COVID virus is not critical in most cases, vast majority of cases, to school-aged children. The younger are even less when you get down into K through 3. Ventilation is important. Take in hospitals, especially in the surgical areas, there has to be a high quality filtration system, specialty lights to kill bacteria coming in and out. We could require those same types of ventilation systems in schools. They're rather expensive, but so is treatment of people with illnesses. It would probably decrease school absentees from illness by a significant amount. I think that's where we should start.
All right, next, how will Oregon fund adequate maintenance personnel in the state parks?
That one would have to be coming out of partially from the use fees of the park, but that will not cover the total costs. Part of that's going to come out of the general fund. There's no other way around that. Currently, I know that they have raided some of the other funds and put them over into cover some of the park expenses. But if we're going to maintain, which we should, these state parks and provide them to the public, we're going to have to fund them through a reasonable method without raising taxes any more than possible.
All right. Passing a balanced budget, considering recent events, will be a big task. What will be your guiding principles as you make budgetary choices?
Well, budget is my forte, to be truthful with you. Like I mentioned earlier, I served on a governor's committee for tax district hospital budgets, reforming the regulations. In normal circumstances, the state of Oregon should work with a balanced budget, period. Now, when we get into circumstances like we are with COVID, we have to look at it a little different. Part of the problem with the COVID is the extreme shutdowns. It's cost our businesses income, which turns around and costs the government taxes. People have been laid off. Those people are not paying income tax. There has to be a balance there someplace. I think we have overkilled the shutdown of businesses, and I'll be very pointed. Since when do we shut churches down and leave bars open? I'm very much against that kind of action. I think we should have our businesses open within reason and doing the business serving the public.
Thank you. What are your major issues, and on what committees would you like to serve?
My major issue, long-term issue, is schools. I would like to serve on the school finance committees. Oregon, prior to the cap tax, the sales tax on corporations, was spending more than the national average per student, and our graduation rate was 47th. That's not very good. Our legislature, in their wisdom, decided to address this by passing the cap tax, which was $1.2 billion, and giving it to schools who did not even know how they were going to spend it yet. Now, in as much as we're already spending above the national average, I would be against blanket passing another tax and just giving it to the schools. In my opinion, the first X number of dollars from that tax, as it's passed, should be used to study Oregon's school system in depth and then compare it to the top 2 or 3 states in the nation and see where we're offline. We appear to be spending sufficient money, but we aren't getting the sufficient results. The second item is law enforcement, safety. As you can very well see, it's out the window right now in Portland. I was reading the article today where the police are arresting these people who are ramaging, setting fires and stuff, and the DA is just releasing them. We need to get back to enforcing the laws we have, enforcing both the state and federal constitution to where the citizens of Oregon know what is right and live within those means.
Thank you, candidate Jack L.S., for our interview today and for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you. I appreciate the time and effort put into this program and think it's going to benefit the public greatly. For more information regarding my campaign, who I am, what I believe, please go to s4oregon.us. The 4 is FOR. And I thank you very much for your time and attention.
And thanks to Capital Community Media for their time and expertise in creating this program and making it available across the state through YouTube and Vote 411. Thank you to the several League of Women Voters Leagues for being interviewers and suggesting questions, and thanks to you, the public, for watching Your Vote Counts in order to become a more informed voter. For more voter information, including dates, registration, candidates for state and local areas, and ballot measures information, please go online to vote411.org. You have until October the 13th to register to vote, with ballots being mailed to you beginning on October the 14th. November the 3rd is Election Day. Please remember that postmarks don't count. Elections matter and make a difference. So remember to vote, because your vote counts.